And you heard from Alan and from Greg and from Milton here in the first row of our audience about what happened to them at the hands of their priests who they trusted. Alan told us how at the age of 9 years old, he was sexually abused by his priest. Greg at the age of 12 years old as an altar boy, and Milton at the age of 14 years old. Abused, molested over 250 times by a priest, a Catholic priest. But it's not just a Catholic problem. In Roanoke, Virginia, 3 evangelists, as I said, were recently convicted of running a boys' sex ring. They traveled the Southern Revival circuit. They spread their tents. They preached the Word of God. But at the same time, they were recruiting young boys with promises of money and gifts and of salvation. Now, one of the 3 confessed to molesting more than 100 young boys. Take a look at this. In a world seemingly gone mad, the church has traditionally been our sanctuary. But how safe is it for our children?
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
These are our most recent images of the church. Men of God fallen from grace. Men who have abused our trust and our faith. But does it really end with preachers and sexual indiscretions? Or have we been too afraid to look closer, becoming in effect accomplices to a scandalous cover-up? Yesterday we examined several stories of priests who had sexually molested young boys left in their care. In Louisiana, Roman Catholic priest Father Gilbert Gothay confessed to raping and sodomizing at least 37 children. In Pennsylvania, Reverend Thomas Bender, a trusted priest, pleaded guilty to repeatedly molesting a 9-year-old boy. And in Seattle, just last month, another priest was sentenced to prison for molesting 6 altar boys. In the last 4 years alone, 180 Catholic priests have been accused of child molestation. These cases have been going on for years, and yet there seems to be a conspiracy of silence. But the hurting and the pain continues.
My first sexual experience was with a Catholic priest. It's hurt me every month. There ain't one month that goes by that I don't talk about it.
As you're about to see on our program today, this sickness is not only in the Catholic Church. Recently in Roanoke, Virginia, 3 evangelical ministers were finally caught after years of traveling the Southern Revival circuit, using God's word as bait to lure young boys into a perverted homosexual prostitution ring. The ringleader, Tony Levia, confessed to molesting as many as 100 young boys. His accomplices, many others. Young lives damaged by these and other so-called men of God. Before we get more heavily involved in the case in Virginia and deal with the issue of preachers who are abusing the young boys amongst their flock, let me reintroduce our guests from yesterday's program. First, Milton Applewhite. He and his buddy Alan here were sexually molested by the same priest, but at different times. Milton says he was molested over 250 times by this priest. Alan, who's now 13, suffered that abuse at least from the age of 9 years old, probably from as young as just 7. Greg Rydell was sexually abused when he was a 12-year-old altar boy. And we'll hear from them to the extent that we have not yet heard the details of their stories. We are also joined by a distinguished panel of lawyers and other experts on this subject. They will give us a defense of the church, and we will delve more deeply into the issue of whether or not, as regards the Catholic Church, there has been a massive cover-up of its involvement in these sexual crimes by priests. Is there, the question we will ask, a sexual Watergate going on within the Catholic Church? Right now, I'd like to introduce another case of sexual molestation by a Catholic priest. His name is Jack. He's now 35 years old. He says he was molested when he was just 14. His attorney, Anthony Fontana, is called the scourge of the Catholic Church, having won over $11 million in settlements from the church due to the sexual abuse of his clients. Jack, we have heard from these fellows, from Alan, from Greg, from Milton. Tell us what you say happened to you as a teenage boy.
I was attending a private Catholic boys' school. I was in the 8th grade, 14 years of age. A priest came to our school to direct the 8th grade play. And early on in the play practice, he asked me to try on some costumes for him. And he took me downstairs in the basement and told me that he needed to, he was directing a crucifixion scene in a window display using live models, and that he was concerned with the decency factor of that live model playing Jesus Christ wearing only a loincloth, and that he wanted me to model the loincloth. And so he said, take off your clothes. And I slowly was taking off my clothes and arguing and saying, wasn't this enough? And he would say no. And finally, he had me stripped completely naked, and he brought out a loincloth. I called it a diaper. That was the only name I could think of at the time. And he tried it on me and spun me around, and he said, you know, I've got a problem. The male model who's playing Jesus Christ in this crucifixion scene in a window display downtown somewhere is older than you, and you need to get an erection in order, because your penis is smaller than this older man, this older model. You need to get an erection. So I had no sexual experience at that time, had never masturbated. He instructed me to start manipulating my penis in order to get the decency factor perspective that he wanted. I didn't have any success, and he said, well, let me help you. So he started masturbating me. And he was down on his knee, and he was not having any success. And he was about to, what I think was about to begin oral copulation on me, when someone knocked on the door and interrupted. And he told him to stay out, and it destroyed the whole atmosphere, the hypnotic spell that he had on me from the humiliation, the embarrassment. And I said, you know, this is enough. I want out of here. And he said, that's fine. You can start getting your clothes on, but I still haven't succeeded in getting the perspective that I want, this decency factor thing. I still don't know whether it's a clear thing. He said, tell me about the lengths of the penises of your other classmates. And he asked me about some particular people, and I told him. And that was the only time that I was molested by him. As far as realizing that that's what he had done to me, it was only a couple of months later, 3 or 4 months later. He didn't molest me again. He didn't ask me to model any more loincloths or anything. I was hitchhiking. I shouldn't have been, with a friend. We were picked up. The friend was sitting in the middle of the car. We were riding down the road going to a movie, and the friend said, stop the car, let us out, before we got to where we were going. We got out, and I said, why did you do that? We've still got 2 miles to walk. And he said he was playing with my crotch. And I said, why would he be doing that? And he explained it to me, and I went, that's what that priest was doing to me. That's the first time I was able to verbalize what had happened to me.
Jack, hold on a second. Tony, they call you the scourge of the Catholic Church. We'll soon hear a defense of the Catholic Church in the allegation being made by many now that a sexual Watergate exists. Yesterday we heard from these youngsters. We've just heard from Jack. There are a lot of questions, Jack, not the least of which is why you waited so long. Do you, though, Tony, allege that there is a general pattern, not only of sexual abuse by a tiny minority, 2% of the Catholic priests, but a pattern of cover-up by the church itself?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that there's a pattern of cover-up. The point that I differ is that I don't believe it's systematic. I don't believe that someone is orchestrating it from above. You have to understand the Catholic Church in the historical sense, that each bishop is in charge of his own diocese. And I believe that the church is very much today a medieval institution. You attack the king back in medieval times, and he pulls up the gate at the moat, and he prepares for the siege. And that's more or less what I think is going on within the Catholic Church. The individual bishops are still treating this problem as they did years ago from the historical viewpoint. And across the country, in diocese after diocese, You're finding that we're having a difficult time getting any information out of them. We have a difficult time getting records. One of the cases that I was involved in, they tried to prevent me from even questioning the bishop on First Amendment grounds. They're trying all types of things throughout the country, but I believe it's from the result of the historical context of the church, more so than it actually is. It's somebody has gone out and told the bishops all across the country, this is the way that you're supposed to handle these things.
You have already won $11 million from the church.
Well, at least. It may be a little more.
There are many tens of millions of dollars of claims pending.
That I know of, certainly. I still have maybe 10 claims left just in the diocese that I'm handling, and I know of cases all across the country.
We have to take a commercial break. The allegation exists of the sexual Watergate. The church speaks, or at least the Catholic League speaks in defense of the church in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
For all those striving to get to the top, this is a reminder of how much fun it is to get to the bottom.
1 calorie, just for the taste of it.
Bottoms up.
Diet Coke.
Also available in caffeine-free, both with 100% NutraSweet.
I can't get out of bed.
Ever notice how even the smallest cold turns everything into a big effort?
What a drag!
It's time to get the big relief of Dimetap. In 12-hour extend tabs, Dimetap is recommended millions of times by doctors and pharmacists.
So you have a cold? I've got just the thing.
Dimetap. It gets things back to normal.
Get ready, Jackson. Regency Mitsubishi's hottest sale ever is back. $1 down delivers you a new 88 Mitsubishi car or a new 88 truck, and your payments will only be $101 per month for all of 88, all of 89. And at Regency Mitsubishi, it's regardless of equipment. Want an automatic? It's still $101. AM/FM cassette? It's still $101. Power sunroof, alloy wheels? It doesn't matter. It's $1 down and $101 a month for all of 88 and 89. It's incredible. It can't last long. It's Regency Mitsubishi.
John Puthenbeetle, the executive director of the Catholic League. Over the course of the last 2 days, John, as you know, you've been here, you have heard, as we all have, allegations of terrible sex crimes being carried out by priests on very young boys, often on church grounds, in the rectory, in the sanctuary itself. You, sir, have also heard the allegation that this is a widespread problem, that perhaps 2% of all priests are getting involved. You heard from Jason Berry, the man sitting next to you, the award-winning reporter for the National Catholic Reporter, that perhaps 40% of all priests now are homosexual, half of them sexually active. The allegations, then, to summarize: homosexuality, pedophilia, and cover-up. Before I ask you to respond, let me just say that we asked officials at the church from the New York Catholic Archdiocese to come on the program. They refused. The Catholic Archdiocese in Washington, D.C., they refused. Mark Chopko, one of the main lawyers for the Catholic Church, he refused. The Archbishop Raymond Hunthausen, an expert on this topic within the church, he refused. Another Father Thomas Doyle, he refused. Ray Mouton, who Jason Berry says is one of the architects of this document that seems to smack of cover-up, he refused. And others and others and others. You, I'm glad to say, did not refuse. You, sir, have the floor. Is there a widespread problem? First of all, is there a cover-up?
I've got to clarify the reason why I'm here today. I'm not speaking on behalf of the National Conference of Catholic Bishops. I'm not speaking for the U.S. Catholic Conference. I'm speaking on behalf of the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights, which is a national anti-defamation and civil rights organization safeguarding the religious freedom rights of Catholics and others in this pluralistic society of ours. I have to concede, yes, we do have a problem, and it is a problem that we cannot afford to basically sweep under the rug, as it were. I feel personally that this is a problem that has to be addressed by those in authority. But to specifically cite this problem as a specifically Catholic problem or something that pertains only to Catholic priests per se is an error. As a matter of fact, as you have already stated, you will be covering other denominations also in the course of the program. And also, one need not be a celibate to be a pedophile. A pedophile could be a celibate, non-celibate, priest, non-priest, could be anyone for that matter. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, or probably less than a couple of weeks ago, we had a case in New York City where a millionaire was indicted for molesting some children in Harlem, a millionaire philanthropist. And about a week ago, we had a case of a Protestant minister molesting children.
John, there is no quarrel here.
Hello, the problem
is... This is a Catholic problem. There is no quarrel. This is not just a Catholic problem. We understand that.
Yeah, the problem is, what I'm concerned about is, last year, we had a couple of cases in the Brooklyn Supreme Court, where in one case, there was a Father Fred Strianis who was murdered. And there was another case, there was a missionary who came all the way from Kenya to the courthouse to the prosecution of these two people who were involved, Father Thomas McDonald. In the Fred Strianis case, the defense attorney kept on quoting statistics that probably he got from people like Jason Berry here and others to point out the fact, here we have a Catholic priest, someone who is a celibate, someone who is a sexual freak, a fanatic, and he was out there soliciting sex. Of course, Father Fred Strianis was dead. The age-old maxim of nil nisi bonum did not apply in this case. He could have been maligned, and there was no Father Fred Strianis to stand up.
Speak not evil of the dead.
Exactly. Now, in the case of Father Thomas McDonald, his father was sick in Bell Harbor. He had come down from Kenya. He's a missionary who works for the Maidenall Order. And he had come to visit his father. Two transvestites mugged him on the way to Bell Harbor. And these two transvestites, between them, had over 148 prior arrests. But still, the defense attorney, when he got hold of Father Thomas McDonald on the witness stand, he drilled him with all sorts of questions. Again, quoting all these statistics, making him look like a sexual fanatic. Again, someone who was out there cruising for these two transvestites. And the story that the defense attorney was trying to tell the jury was, when he discovered that these two were not females but males, he got upset, he attacked them. As a matter of fact, at the end of the hearing, Father Thomas McDonald stated that the tongue of the defense attorney was sharper than the blade that cut him up so badly when he had a fisticuff with these people.
John, are you suggesting that the adverse reaction to this scandal is a bigger problem than the scandal itself?
No, there's a lot of anti-Catholic bashing that goes on. I'm not saying that pedophilia is a problem, but you always find square pegs in round holes in any organization, any setup for that matter. There is no concerted effort on the part of the Catholic Church in the United States, as well as I know, to cover up. Individual bishops are supposed to deal with the problems that occur in their diocese.
Jeff Anderson, do you agree that there is no concerted effort to cover up?
I don't believe there's an effort coming from Rome, directed by the Pope. But where I disagree is there seems to be an institutional problem peculiar to the Catholic Church, that when they receive information of child abuse, they seem to react similarly, which is indifference to the victims. And that's what causes them to transfer instead of remove. That's what causes them to transfer instead of report to the police. So I represent many victims of sexual abuse against many different entities and institutions. But I have learned, and I do believe, that the Catholic Church has been peculiarly slow in dealing with the issue.
Gentlemen, I'm going to put it on pause. As you suggest, John, this is a multi-denominational phenomenon. As horrible as it is not something specific to Catholics. We will introduce the victims of the Pentecostal preachers from Virginia who join us via satellite. We will continue this discussion, talk more about the document that seems to indicate, at least in my reading, that the motive may not be the accurate and full reporting of these cases. But first, we have to take a break. Stay with us.
I'll never forget that night.
Traffic alert.
My throat was so sore it hurt to talk.
Try Sucret spray.
Maximum strength Sucret spray with diclonine lasts twice as long as the other brand.
Flight 8 clear for takeoff.
Maximum strength Sucret spray lasts twice as long.
There's nothing like hot milk before bedtime.
Introducing Calgon Foaming Milk Bath with milk and baby oil to soften you all over. Treat yourself to hot milk tonight. Let new Calgon Foaming Milk Bath take you away.
Thank you for my dad and mommy, my friend Christina, my dog Tommy. Special blessings makes it fun to count my blessings one by one.
Special blessings, adorable dolls who share the joy of counting blessings with your child.
I love to care for special blessings, brushing, combing, laughing, dressing. She's my best friend night and day. I love her so in every way.
Special blessings, new from Kenner.
For free tickets to Geraldo, please write Geraldo, Times Square Station, Post Office Box 684, New York, New York, 10108. Please send a self-addressed stamped envelope or call 212-265-1283.
Have you or a member of your family been involved in an accident? Are you at a loss as to what to do? Do you call the insurance company? Who is responsible for the medical bills? Are you owed more than medical bills and lost wages? Must you sign the insurance company form? To know all your legal rights, call the law firm of Davis, Knupp & Goldberg at 982-8787 for a free confidential interview and get the answers to all your questions. Remember, you don't pay us an attorney's fee unless we collect for you. Call Davis, Knupp & Goldberg at 982-8787.
I think the first thing you learn in the kitchen is make it convenient. Put everything where you can get to it and use the right cookware for the job. So for roasting or baking, the cookware I use is a Reynolds oven cooking bag. It's such a convenient way to cook a meal because the meat bastes itself tender and juicy right inside the bag. And there's no messy pan or oven to clean up. Look for Reynolds oven cooking bags, the convenient cookware from the makers of Reynolds Wrap.
WLBT would like you to join us in celebrating this Christmas with the 3rd annual Spirit of Christmas toy giveaway. You could win one of these special toys and have 10 toys donated in your name to needy children throughout Mississippi. Send your name, address, and phone number on a postcard to WLBT, Post Office Box 1712, Jackson, Mississippi 39215. Join us in helping everyone have a Merry Christmas.
Coming up, next time on Family Ties, welcome to Hotel Keaton, where rooms are a steal.
Little girl, do you have a room?
Yes?
Give you $100 for it.
You got it.
Food is first class.
There better be French toast here in the morning.
And the service is 5-star.
There's no more bathroom for these people.
That's hardly a motto for a hotel.
There's only one small problem. They seem to be a little overbooked. Next time on Family Ties.
Weekdays at 4:30 on WLBT.
Tony Fontana, the alleged scourge of the Catholic Church. How do you respond to the charge that work by attorneys like you is causing an anti-Catholic backlash in this country and Catholic bashing?
Well, I just want to make sure that it's clear about this. You know, I'm Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I'm a product of Catholic schools. I was an altar boy until I graduated from high school and all. And I didn't take the decision to get involved with these cases lightly, particularly suing the Catholic Church in South Louisiana, which is highly Catholic. We didn't go out on a witch hunt looking for these cases. We had these victims that came to us with these horror stories of having been molested in the church, in the confessional, before, after Mass, sometimes during Mass, in the parking lot waiting for their parents to come and pick them up. And these same men being invited over to the parents for dinner later that day, this is what came to us. And for someone to suggest that this is Catholic bashing, there are plenty of Catholic lawyers who are representing these victims who feel very strong about the fact that this Catholic Church today, at least with this problem, is not the church we were raised in.
James Lakudis is from the lay Catholic group called Catholics United for the Faith. Do you think this is a little problem, big problem, institutional problem, individual problem?
I think we really should put the matter in a wider societal context in order to understand what has happened in these particular horror stories that we've been hearing. We're living in a pornographic culture. Here we are in Times Square. Many Americans call it Slime Square. You have the most filthy, vulgar, violent, pornographic movies being shown, thousands of people visiting these theaters. If you're going to talk about cover-up, why don't we talk about the district attorney of New York City covering up Slime Square and dealing with this pornographic problem? Why should we be surprised in American society if we have priests or preachers or lawyers or doctors or psychiatrists or accountants acting out their pornographic fantasies upon children?
I appreciate your sentiments. Specifically, does your organization believe this is a serious problem within the church now?
The Catholic Church has been undergoing the most violent attack upon its sexual morality that it ever has in its 2,000-year history. And the attacks are coming not only from without, people who simply do not understand the church's teaching on the Ten Commandments, but from within. And this links to the problem that you're dealing with today. In the church, we've had priests, we've had dissenter theologians writing books and lecturing, basically teaching a very permissive and laxist morality. We've had the Catholic Theological Society of America issuing a volume basically sanctioning the most permissive attitudes in sexuality. We had Father John McNeil writing a book on homosexuality, sanctioning it. We've got New Ways Ministry. We've had a homosexual network operating in some dioceses. Certainly the Holy See, good bishops are very concerned about these attacks on sexual ethics occurring from within. Why should we be surprised that people who receive this kind of laxist or permissive education in laxist seminaries would be engaging in the kind of activities that we rightfully are morally outraged about?
To nail you down, James.
Right.
Big problem?
Yes, I think the attacks on the church's sexual morality is a big problem.
How about the sexual morality of the church itself? Is that a big problem?
There has been a failure, obviously, in pastoral care. No question about that. And what we need, of course, is an enforcement of church discipline and church law and church doctrine, especially touching upon sexual morality. As long as you have this casual, relaxed attitude toward sexual morality in our society, everyone is affected, and we are all vulnerable in the sexual dimension of our lives.
Jason Berry, award-winning reporter for the National Catholic Reporter. Before I go to Roanoke, Virginia on the satellite to show two victims of preacher molestation, you have been on this story for what, sir, 3 years?
Yeah.
How big is it?
Oh, it's big. It affects every diocese in the country. Millions of dollars have been paid out. Prosecutions continue. I find it more than ironic that in the last several years, as the Vatican has engaged in this campaign of renascent orthodoxy, basically bringing the cudgel down on men...
Renewed orthodoxy.
Right. Theologians engaging in legitimate scholarly inquiry about the nature of human sexuality, that at the same time these men are being persecuted for doing what honest theologians do, which is inquire and try to teach us and use the likes of behavioral science. At the same time, there's this awful scandal, and I don't think the attacks have been violent at all. I think they've been very principled attacks, and they've come because people are frustrated at this mindset of institutional denial at the top.
You're saying at the same time conservatives within the hierarchy of the Catholic Church are trying to suppress the liberals in philosophical terms. Mm-hmm. The conservatives are covering up or overlooking or underreporting this scandal.
Sure. That's exactly what I'm saying. And it all comes down, really, to the interpretation that the church has long placed on sexual morality, on human sexual intimacy. It hasn't changed in hundreds of years. But science has.
All right, let's go. Flash the satellite. Okay, these two young fellows were victimized, not by Catholic priests, but in their case, by touring evangelists, preachers, Pentecostal preachers. We'll hear their stories after this break. Stay with us.
Ever notice the many Harold stickers you see on cars and trucks around town? The owners of these cars seem to be good-looking, intelligent, and energetic people who appreciate the better things in life and enjoy saving money. Harold has a wide selection, the lowest prices, and the best people to deal with. Move on up to Harold Chevy O's.
Move on up. Move on up to Harold Chevy O's.
This is your moment to be beautiful. Beautiful, the fragrance from Estee Lauder. Now at Holmes, your no-risk shopping store.
Stop daydreaming it. Start doing it. The world of travel needs people who are trained and qualified. It's an exciting career with worldwide fringe benefits, and you're invited. Call Phillips Junior College at 362-6341. Call today.
The new issue of TV Guide remembers JFK. In America's mind, he lives in images. Images from a medium he mastered instinctively. On the 25th anniversary of his death, find out why John F. Kennedy's presidency seems so uniquely tied to television. It's in the new issue of TV Guide, the real TV Guide. Pick up your copy today, wherever magazines are sold.
John, you have a brief rebuttal, I believe, to Jason Berry.
Yes, number one, I question all the statistics with regard to homosexuality among the Catholic priests in this country.
You don't believe it's 40%?
I don't believe that, and I don't understand what source he is quoting from. The other question I have is, we agreed here today that we all denounce pedophilia, we all denounce incest and all those molestation of children in whatever form and shape it takes. But the fact is, in the city of New York, every year, groups, national groups with chapters across the country, groups which promote man-boy love, groups which specifically are trying to change the legal system so that non-consensual sex is something that they could indulge in. These groups are still in existence.
I agree, and it's horrible.
Horrible, and nobody speaks out against that.
Oh, that's not true. People do speak out, and they should be commended for speaking out.
That is what I call I congratulate you for speaking out, but the thing is, that is what I call double standards. If you speak out against pedophilia among one group...
Briefly, Jason, reaction.
Well, I think we all oppose child sexual abuse. I don't have any great fondness for the North American Man-Boy Love Society. They're a bunch of sickos. I did want to answer your... you asked about the...
Briefly, I want to get to Virginia. Let's go.
The 40% statistic, I spent 9 months doing interviews for a series in NCR.
National Catholic Reporter.
National Catholic Reporter. A range of sources felt 40%. Dick Sipe is a therapist in Maryland who has done 1,500 case studies. He's a former priest. He's married to a psychiatrist. His data shows 2% of U.S. priests are pedophiles, 40% are homosexuals.
Okay. But it's not a Catholic problem. It's not exclusively a Catholic problem. All right, these guys, it's Johnny. Which of you, Johnny? Raise your hand, please. Okay. And Roger? Roger, how old were you when you got involved?
I got involved, I was first 8 years old when I first met him.
8 years old when you first met the evangelist who molested you. What did he do to you?
Well, I was 15 before I really had any contact with him.
What did he do then?
He asked me to spend a night with him in a Roanoke motel.
Did you do it?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
Just once in Roanoke.
And then, after that, what happened?
After that, he talked with my parents. He talked to me about wanting to travel with him, to be a member, to put up his, a member of the tent crew. So finally, after discussion with my parents and talking over with me, my parents decided to let me go.
Did you tell your parents at that time that this man had already molested you?
No, sir.
Why didn't you tell them?
Well, after it happened, it was kind of strange the way he put it to me. He told me not to tell anyone about it, and he told me not let it hurt my faith. And he said it was perfectly all right.
What a damn hypocrite. I mean, imagine that. Here's an adult, a preacher, who abuses a young child and then says, don't worry, it won't affect, it should not affect your faith. Did you see, Roger, other boys being molested by these three preachers?
I didn't see none of them molested because he mainly worked as, while I was traveling with them, he worked only having a few, just one boy at a time come in his motel room.
Why did you decide finally to tell an adult, tell someone?
Well, through the experience of traveling with him through the states down south, there were strange things went on, like he took me and what few boys that were traveling with him at the time down Bourbon Street, New Orleans. Down there one night, we walked for about a half hour to an hour down the street, and after that, that's when I kind of started putting two and two together, knowing that it was very wrong for this man to be doing what he was doing. So when I got back, I was able to get back to Roanoke about a month and a half later, and when I did, I went to the police department and I reported the incident.
Did the police take immediate action?
No, sir.
Why not?
I have no idea.
We'll talk to some federal prosecutors just a little later in the program. Let me talk now to Johnny. Roger. Johnny, how old were you when you got involved?
I was 16.
Does what Roger said about his seduction, does that sound familiar to you?
Oh, yes.
How'd they get you involved?
Well, I met him at a service whenever he was in Roanoke, and he asked me if I wanted to stay the night with him at his motel here in Roanoke. And I said, yes, I would.
Why? Why did you say it? Why did you consent?
Because I looked up to Tony as a father figure.
Looked up to the preacher as a father figure?
Yes.
Did you think it had a sexual aspect? Did you think that he was going to sexually molest you?
No, I didn't.
But he did, didn't he?
Yes.
How many times?
Once at that motel.
And then, did you go on the road with him also?
Then about a month, maybe 2 months later, I went up to Georgia with him.
So, here you are, a teenager, and here they are, three preachers, and they're bringing minors across state lines for their sick purposes. Not only were they doing it in their houses of worship, they were actually transporting the boys in their own pocket sex ring. When we come back, we'll talk to some of the federal prosecutors who, thank God, nailed these creeps and sentenced them to prison. We'll be right back.
Here's important news for homeowners. If you've been thinking of siding your home but have put it off because of the expense, now is the perfect time to do it. Because if you call this toll-free number right now during our special off-season sale, you can save 15% on siding from Sears. But that's not all. If you call during this limited time sale, you'll also get energy-saving 3/4-inch foam wall insulation at no additional cost with the installation of your siding. You see, we need to keep our crews busy at this time of year, so we're cutting our prices and passing the savings on to you. So whether your home is wood or stucco and needs an entire facelift, or if it's a brick combination with cracked, peeling moldings, eaves, and overhangs, siding from Sears will enhance the look of your home. In addition, long-lasting, maintenance-free siding will increase the resale value and save you the bother and expense of frequent repainting. And siding from Sears combined with energy-saving 3/4-inch foam wall insulation will cut your heating and cooling costs so that you not only save money now, you continue to save all year round. Best of all, when you deal with Sears, you can be sure the job is done right. Call this toll-free number now during our off-season sale, and Sears will arrange for a free in-home estimate. Help you select siding that's just right for your needs. Show you convenient credit plans designed to fit almost any budget, and even arrange for professional installation. So don't delay. Enjoy all the beauty and satisfaction